Good evening. My name is Mark Graves. I just want to first say thanks for taking time. I know many of you arrived early and took the time to look at some of the boards and ask questions about some of the projects that we did. And I just appreciate the interest of the work that we've done and some of the message that we have to share with you tonight. Tonight we're going to talk a little bit about restoring the core while building your future. At CTS, we like to say we're building relationships for life, dedicated to building clients, not just projects. And we do that by listening to our clients and providing unique facility solutions for those clients. 75% of our clients are repeat or referral clients. You might recognize some of these names on this board here. Midwest, Havana, just up the road, Triopia. These are all clients we've worked with the last few years. I think on this list, I think there's 2 that have not worked with CTS to do a multiple phase project. Every one of those on there have done at least 2 phases of work with CTS. We're going to be talking about setting the foundation for a vision for tomorrow. And I pulled this picture. This is a picture of a school in the 1950s. Does anybody know when the school was constructed here at Lincoln Schools? Anybody want to guess? Yeah, 50-something. 52, 56, I think was an addition. So if you can imagine, back in the 50s, that was your school. We're going to be talking about how we can transform that school and prepare it for tomorrow. And really bring up, some of you had the opportunity to visit some of our schools and see some of the work we've done. We're excited about sharing some of that message with you tonight. I'm going to use this slide to introduce those that are with me. Tonight we have, first of all, one of 2 of our managing partners. About 16 years ago, these 2 gentlemen left. At that time, there really was only two major players in performance contracting, kind of the Lowe's and Home Depot, if you will, of performance contracting. And these 2 gentlemen left. They felt like they could start their own company, and they really had a passion for bringing satisfaction and working with clients. They felt they could serve their clients better. And that is Bob Bennett, the gentleman here in the white shirt. He's one of the 2 managing partners for CTS. And one of the things that Bob brought when he started CTS was he wanted to have a team approach where those team members could make decisions. They would trust them to make decisions within that team. And so your team tonight with me is, we have Michelle James, who will be sharing with you here in a little bit. Jaime Fausto, he's one of our engineers. John Lorraine in the red next to Bob. And then Jason Becker, one of our project managers. Jason actually worked on Triopia School, so we asked him to be here tonight to share with you a little bit about Triopia. And then really that third component is local contractors. It's really your local contractors. We want to work with your contractors, and together, the district, your team, those contractors, the design consultants, we want to bring a solution to you. We're going to work together. We're going to have one common goal, and that's to have a satisfied project when we're completed. So I want to talk a little bit about some of the projects we've done. You've seen some of those on the boards. I have a couple here. This is Columbia. I'm going to read to you what they have here. Those at CTS have made the event extremely rewarding and pleasurable. From the beginning to the end, they assisted us in meeting our district needs. That's continuity, beginning to end, working throughout the project. Prairie View, Ogden, it's over by Champaign. CTS proposed innovative solutions customized to meet our needs in the budget and timeline required. Their knowledge and experience providing quality projects led us to the decisions to select a team as our preferred partner. And when I was looking at my notes, I circled partner. I think it's collaboration. It's working together with districts. This is Triad down by St. Louis. The performance contracting process was far less of a burden on the district compared to the prior renovation projects that followed the traditional construction process. Now, if anybody knows construction is chaos to many people, right? I mean, it's you're taking your school and you're basically renovating that facility, and it can be chaos. The companies that basically separate the good from the great are people that manage that chaos in a manageable process. And we're going to talk a little bit about Triopia in a second, how we did that. But before I do that, this slide here on the bottom talks about, they really, at Triad, they tried to look at air conditioning 2 schools. They worked with their architect. They went out for bid twice. The lowest bid came in at $7.1 million. Their budget was $4.7 million. So we sat down with their administration and we asked them, why don't you give the chance for performance contracting? They went out for an RFP, much like you did. Our price came in at $4.6 million. We were able to do that because we used our design expertise to refine a system for them. And as I kind of mentioned before, CTS is a very flat organization. We're very competitive on our price. We're usually 10 to 20% lower than our competitors. And you can kind of see that firsthand. We had 5 responding companies there besides ourselves, and all the other 5 were right around that range that they had for their budget before. And then many of you actually went to Jerseyville firsthand and saw some of these, actually saw the renovations firsthand. These were pictures before the construction. But I think Steve was the one that mentioned this looks like Lincoln. You know, the pictures we were showing during our presentation were you had issues with all the extension cords, the flooring, windows, single pane glass, old unit vents, the gymnasium. And this is what they saw when they were there that day. The center one, the windows, just up the road at Havana, we did a window project there. In the community, one of the old gentlemen in the community came to the superintendent crying. He was so impressed with how much the windows just made a difference in the building itself and how it appeared to the outside. But once you got into the building, we looked at new flooring, we renovated the gym, we saw how we updated the classrooms. We also saw that at Columbia schools as well. And then this one's just right up the road. I threw this one in here. This is Triopia. So this is just last summer. Steve Eisenhower is the superintendent there. And he had about $5 million of renovations that he needed to work with. His architect at the time was telling him that he really needed 2 summers to do that work. And we sat down with him and kind of looked at a timeline where we were able to do all that work in 1 summer. You know, managing that chaos. He wanted to basically get it done in 1 summer rather than 2 summers. And I don't know, maybe Jason, we can just talk a little bit about what happened there. I'm kind of putting you on the spot. I really didn't set the stage for you, Jason, but you were the project manager there. How did we pull it all together in 1 summer?
And we just really put together a good plan. I've met with my lead in for each one of our subcontractors, our asbestos abatement crews, and we explained the phasing and how the asbestos abatement was going to go, which drove the project, and how we could go about doing things in areas before it was abated that wouldn't hinder abatement, so that we could have things done on the forefront instead of trying to jam everything in at the end with this great race and finish and hope that we get there. We're actually able to complete this project 2 weeks early. 2 weeks earlier than scheduled. So, quite a thing.
Yeah, it's just right up the road, so take the opportunity to go up and see it. It's very close, right in your backyard. Thanks, Jason. I know you're going to be up later on, so I'll let you cover the rest of that later on in your presentation. So you're going to have 2 presentations tonight, and to be honest with you, I think at the end of the night you're going to be, what did CTS say, and what did company B say, and how do you keep track of everything? It's kind of like the kid there on the left, you know, all the painted hands and everything's kind of scrambled. I just want to leave 3 things with you before we kind of turn it over to Michelle, and that's really the first is that when you think of us, you know, proven performance, unmatched local references. When you think about CTS, proven performance. The local project team, you know, it's our commitment to drive satisfaction for you. And one of the other pieces that we do is we work with schools to leverage local funds to support local contractors. That's the image there on the right. That's a couple brochures. We helped Havana and Midwest Central secure the 1 cent sales tax last year. I know you guys have already had the 1 cent sales tax, but we have the ability to work with schools. I think we're 13 out of 13 on referendums working with schools to get referendums approved, where we work with them to build that case within the community of renovating your facilities. And then finally, our primary business is K-12. That's all we do, performance contracting and education. We do a little bit in cities and local government, but our primary business is school districts, just like yourself. So, we're excited about tonight. We're looking forward to working with your team, rolling up our sleeves and sitting down with your team to kind of start planning in the future. And so the first step in that process is learning what we have in mind for you at Lincoln, I'm sorry. So Michelle, I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to you and let you kind of go through Lincoln schools.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks again for your time tonight. So as Mark mentioned, what I wanted to talk a little bit about is our process and what we've looked at so far. So as part of this initial process, we did look at more than just Lincoln. We looked at Washington, we looked at South, we looked at Murrayville, but most of our time was spent focusing on the needs of Lincoln Elementary School. So what Jaime Frosto and I want to do tonight is really just highlight some of the needs and some of the initial recommendations that we put together in the proposals that you see before you. So one of the key factors in the CTS approach is meeting with the staff and the administration and really understanding what your needs are and what your long-term vision is, so that when we develop our projects, we're properly aligned with your long-term goals. So as we talked with the staff and administration initially, we determined that you have a lot more needs than what we see here at Lincoln Elementary School throughout the district. And in fact, I think right now you are in the early process of Turner school renovation projects. So with that in mind, our goal really is to come up with really innovative solutions that maximize the savings and for the lowest investment possible to make the best learning environment. And we want to do that so that we can stretch your funding to be able to address all the needs throughout the district. So that's basically the main goal that we have. This slide really kind of goes through in detail the process for developing the scope of work and the recommendations for Lincoln Elementary School. A couple things I just want to point out. When you look at scope development, I think Mark may have touched on this just a little bit, but one of the things that I think differentiates CTS is we use a life cycle analysis approach. And what that is that we're not really just looking at first cost, we're looking at energy cost, we're looking at operational cost, we're looking at maintenance and repair cost, and we're looking at replacement cost. And we do this typically over a 30-year period of time so that we make sure that we can present all the details to you on the systems that we're looking at so you can make the best decision for the district to meet your long-term goals. So that's something that you'll notice throughout the presentation today. The other thing I want to point out is that when you're looking, when you're looking at all these steps, the team that Mark introduced tonight, we get involved in all these steps. You know, we're part of that process so that we make sure that we uncover all the needs of the district and that we actually provide you with the best solutions. So anybody from our account management side down to through our engineering side, through our project management, we get involved in the design and the installation process to make sure that we're covering all of our bases and giving you the best solution. So one of the first steps that we do in looking at the energy profile of the buildings would be a utility analysis. And so what we did in looking at the 4 elementary schools that we first looked at, Lincoln there is at the top for Jacksonville School District, is the energy use intensity, or the KBTU per square foot. And what that allows us to do is compare your buildings to other facilities to see how it's operating in terms of energy. So what we have here is the 4 schools that we looked at for Jacksonville School District as compared to a variety of other school districts in the area that CTS has performed renovation projects. And this is listed by different types of HVAC systems. Again, in red would be Jacksonville school districts, and then we have a variety of other different systems. Jacksonville School District has 2-pipe heating systems, steam heating systems. Some of the other schools also have 2-pipe in yellow, packaged rooftop units, and down below geothermal heating and cooling systems. And as you can see, that tends to be the most energy efficient. But what I think this slide really just shows us is that as we look to developing the solutions for Lincoln Elementary School, there's opportunity for energy savings. So as you'll find in the binders and proposals that we put together, there's a lot of detail for Lincoln Elementary School on the existing conditions of the building and the needs. And we also put together some detailed initial recommendations. Basically, facility improvement measures is what we're calling it, FIMs 1 through 12. So Jaime and I just want to talk a little bit, highlighting some of these areas tonight. So the first one would be lighting and electrical upgrades. The district's done a pretty good job in looking at upgrading the interior lighting. So taking a lot of your old T12 lights, upgrading them with T8, T5 fixtures you see in here today. One of the other opportunities that we saw would be adding some occupancy sensors to reduce energy savings where it makes sense. So it could be the gymnasium where you have a lot of use, some storage facilities, some common spaces. We also looked at the exterior lighting upgrades. The district has started doing gradually wall pack units that you see. Sorry about that. See up here to the right-hand side is one of the exterior wall packs that's older. We would recommend taking a look at all of the exterior lights, upgrading that, and doing it in the best safe way possible with the electrical. The other thing that we looked at would be the main distribution electrical system, upgrading that and the sub-panels, as well as evaluating the outlets within the classrooms and making sure that you have enough for technology. Jaime's going to spend a little time just talking about the electrical system and what we looked at there.
So I'm not very good at karaoke, so excuse me with my mic handling skills here. But the main distribution panel, we looked at upgrading that for a couple different reasons. It's original to the building, and you also, to provide cooling for the school, there's a need to increase the amount of electricity or capacity for the school. So we would install, like Michelle mentioned, a main distribution panel, and then all the other panels that would power things like outlets and HVAC equipment and what have you throughout the school. Also, this is really a picture within the school, and so the building usage has changed, and with the amount of technology that's out there, there's a need for more outlets. So as Michelle mentioned, we take a survey of your school and make sure that we're providing all the necessary outlets, to power all these other devices. You have all these computers in your lab, in the library, and then other instruments or tools, kind of like these tablets and iPads and so forth. So that's kind of what we're looking at.
I will say some of those also have grant opportunities. Mark talked a little bit about some of the extra services that we provide. Looking for grant opportunities is something that we do. We research them, we write the grants on the front end and all the back end in terms of paperwork to help reduce the payback. So right now, things like lighting, occupancy sensors, there are some availability for grants that we go after on that. The next thing would be building envelope improvements that we looked at. And really the goal here is to prevent unconditioned outside air from coming into the building. So here are a few things that we'd look at. Window replacements. For here at Lincoln Elementary, actually, you have started upgrading some of your single pane and efficient windows in a couple of the areas to double pane. So our recommendation would be to just, for the entire school, bring that up to the double pane windows. We'd also look at the exterior door replacements. Some of those are original and aging and deteriorating, again, providing some leakage. The next thing we want to talk a little bit about would be your HVAC system. As I mentioned, you do have an original steam heating boiler system, and throughout the classrooms you've got unit ventilators, both original to the building. Most of the classrooms utilize window air conditioning units. They're a little loud, and so sometimes that impedes the learning environment. So again, our goal is to focus on what can we do to upgrade these systems to provide the best learning environment. Jaime's going to talk a little bit about the indoor air quality. This chart I just wanted to bring up, and I mentioned earlier the life cycle evaluation that we do. There's certain things that you're not going to see in terms of the cost in the life cycle evaluation that we also factor in. Things such as ease of maintenance of the equipment that we put in, things like zone control, things like indoor air quality. So those are other things that we take into consideration when we're designing the system that is important when you make that decision.
All right, thank you. So, as Michelle mentioned, we want to provide the optimal learning environment for your students. And so a recent study that was published by Harvard School of Public Health kind of validated what everybody in the industry has kind of known for a long time, is that CO2 levels in your schools are not an indicator of bad quality, air quality. They're actually a cause of indoor air quality or bad indoor air quality. So I went around and took indoor air quality measurements or CO2 measurements in your school, and some of your spaces are a little bit higher than they would normally be at an unoccupied state. So when you add children and teachers, those CO2 levels increase. And so what this study's found that by decreasing that high CO2 level by as little as 400 ppm, doesn't sound like a lot, but or a little, but it is a little. And so what happens is your test scores increase and your ability to understand material increases. So high CO2 level, kind of affects decision-making skills and also adds to absenteeism and a lot of other things. So aside from the energy, we also want to keep in mind indoor air quality as a way to improve your learning environment here for your students and staff.
So again, the boilers are original, the unit vents are original, the air handling unit that serves this area is original. So these are all things that we would look at to come up with some solutions that provide the best learning environment. You also have old steam piping that would be looked at in terms of upgrading that. I know that the district has done a good job of utilizing some of the grant programs on the steam traps and upgrading that, but it is original and there are leaks that Craig's starting to see. The next thing we looked at would be temperature control systems. So again, this facility utilizes pneumatic control systems that are original, difficult to control, and standalone thermostats. And so one of the things that we would recommend as part of an HVAC upgrade would be looking at web-based direct digital control systems. So something that you can access from any device with internet capability, and you can look at doing scheduling, you can look at troubleshooting, at this building, again, any device that has internet capability. So what it really does is it protects your investment, and it again allows you to not have as many failures and provide the best learning environment. The other thing I wanted to point out is that with every installation that we do on the building automation system, we always provide a 3-year remote service support and training. It's no additional cost. The reason we do that is because we want to make sure that the staff and administration understands how to properly utilize that system. And we understand that a lot of times you may have new people come into your building, you may have turnover, and we want to make sure that those people really understand how to use it. So again, you can maintain those comfort levels and also the energy savings that we're predicting. I think Jaime's just going to spend a little bit talking about the importance of the non-proprietary systems that we recommend and why that's important when you look to expand down the road to your other facilities.
So the non-proprietary system lets you integrate basically any control system. So you're able to bring on other systems. So you have 9 different schools in your district. And just because you have this non-proprietary system here doesn't mean you can't incorporate those schools later on. So it allows for 2 things, is integration of various types of control systems and also scalability. So you're going to be able to add all these different schools into one common platform. Steve or anybody on your facilities team will be able to log in and actually see what's happening in all those schools once they're all integrated into this one common platform. So it's very flexible. So like Michelle mentioned, the key here is scalability and definitely integratable.
The other thing I'll say about the non-proprietary and why we feel that's important is that, as you look to have multiple contractors down the road coming in and looking at the systems, you want to make sure that they're performing. And if you've got a non-proprietary system, that means that multiple people can work on that system. And so if somebody's not performing, you can move to another contractor. With proprietary systems, sometimes you're just locked into that manufacturer. So again, as Mark brought up, we're vendor neutral. We don't manufacture any products. We're really just here to find the best solution. So the next thing we're going to talk about is plumbing upgrades. I think Jaime's going to talk to you a little bit.
So definitely, we're looking at remodeling your restrooms. So along with the fixtures and partitions and the flooring and all that, we also have included in this proposal to actually inspect your drainage system. So as you make these investments, we want to make sure that your infrastructure is there, and we don't remodel and all of a sudden your drains start backing up, and well, you don't want to mess up the pretty floor and all the work and all that hard work that everybody's done. So definitely, and as kind of the slide mentions, we're also taking a look at your sinks and your cabinetry throughout the classrooms. Oh, sure. So we all walked in through the front door, and as we walked in, on your left-hand side, there's the wooden door to the front office. And so that's one of the things that we're recommending here is a secured entrance. So on the bottom pictures, you see various different styles of secured entrance, but that's what we imagined for your front entrance. So no one can get past those first set of doors without someone buzzing them in, looking in the camera, speaking to someone, and then they're buzzed into kind of the little foyer area. From there, they'd be able to walk up to the window. You can find out what it is they're looking for and kind of keep them there. So we talked about maybe adding some benches there. Folks have to wait for whoever it is they're here to see. But so it's very important, this day and age, to secure your front entrance, and that's what we envision. So we would be replacing those front doors, both sets of doors. So your immediate doors entering and then into the hallway to kind of just keep a tight building and control access.
So one of the things that we looked at as part of our proposal, you may have seen in the executive summary or the site specific, is we wanted to just give you some ideas on what it might look like to renovate the front of the facility. So what you see here would be a rendering that we put together. Obviously up at the top is the front of Lincoln Elementary School, as it is today. And then down below, it would be some ideas that we put together. Certainly, we would sit down with you and really get an idea of what your vision is for the front of that building, but we wanted to at least kind of give you some ideas. I think a few of you were able to visit Columbia School District and really kind of see the before and after pictures and kind of the wow factor of that school that people saw. This particular idea kind of utilizes the same thing. We've got the composite metal panel system, and what we did is we wanted to really emphasize the main entrance, make it really visible for the community. So we raised the entrance a little bit. We looked at adding in a canopy where the actual name of the school would be Lincoln Elementary School. Can you hear me? Okay. And then some of the other scope of work that we talked about already is shown on here. We would look at the new storefront windows throughout, the new exterior doors. We looked at painting that front panel along the top all red to really make it pop. We looked at also some stacked stone base down below on the bottom, which would help with the structure, as well as making it easily aesthetically pleasing towards the front. So again, this is just some initial ideas. We wanted to see what it could look like down the road. I think if you look at your brochure and some of the information that we put together, that's in there. The other thing that we looked at would be the interior spaces, the lockers. Some of the lockers around here are in kind of poor condition, so we would look at upgrading those. You've also got some interior original wood doors that are not fire rated, so we would look to bringing up those to code, replacing those. And then the VCT asbestos tile, we would put together an abatement plan, upgrading that VCT tile, working with you on the style of that. Down below, you can see some of the schools that we renovated. A lot of the school districts like to use primary colors, and again, we would work with you on that. The last thing we looked at would be the auditorium. Some of the feedback that we received was that this might be utilized as a different space, and so one of the things that we talked about would be repurposing that area into maybe a computer lab and a couple workspaces. And so one of the things that we might consider looking at would be collaborative learning environments. And so we showed you a few pictures up here on what that might look like. I believe this is Chester East Lincoln, one of the school districts that we did. So a lot of school districts are saying, hey, we want to bring them out of the classroom space into a collaborative environment. So that is one option that we would consider for that. So one of the last slides we have here is project schedule. And, again, one of the things that CTS does really well is not just looking at projects that have HVAC and controls, but we look at comprehensive projects like the ones that we're recommending here, like the Columbia School District and Triopia School District. And the way to make those successful is having a good project schedule, being able to handle that from the beginning to the end, and having a good project manager. So I want to just take Jason, who worked on Triopia, and have him talk a little bit about how he utilizes that schedule and his communication with subcontractors and the school district.
That's the thing about CTS, you guys work hands-on on we're here every day.
Yeah, any questions for Jason on the project management before we finish up?
We have no change orders. Sometimes in these projects, you get into these schools, it's kind of like going to the store and buying a can goods that doesn't have a label on it. Sometimes you open something up and find something you weren't expecting and we have to deal with it. We don't come back to you guys and ask for additional money. We missed it, we deal with it, we move on, we make the best of it. So I didn't have any overruns, any extras with the Triopia schools at all.
And was it easy for you to find a lot of local contractors to work with?
It was. There's several items that we can do that on. Some of our big items, ticket items, we're pretty comfortable with our preferred contractors. We know that they have the manpower. We know that they're going to get in and work in a timely fashion, and we're going to do whatever it takes to get the job done. There are several items in schools like this that we can go out and have time to facilitate local contractors to do many things. And I used a handful of local people up at Triopia throughout the summer to achieve things for me that we needed to get done, and things that came up we didn't anticipate, and things that we knew up front that you guys give us good recommendations on local people to go talk to, and we meet with them and sit down and see if they can handle the project or not. I mean, these aren't easy things to pull off in the short amount of time that we have to work with them. The project schedule that you guys have in front of you, if I remember correctly, shows a start date of like May 31st and end date like August 12th. That's not a lot of days. So we have to be comfortable in the performance of your local contractors to be able to do that. And I would have some good recommendations for a couple of locals that we work with this summer for different areas of the scope of this project.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would just add to that, I mean, our goal is to try to use as many local contractors as possible. And so if you have recommendations on people that you want us to take a look at and get proposals from, we want that. We want to do that. Assuming they can meet the skill set of what we're doing and the time frame, that's absolutely what we try to do. We can't guarantee once we reach out to these people that they're going to respond all the time, and that's always a challenge, but we definitely reach out to as many local people as we can. And again, the schedule that you see up here, and I believe everybody has a copy of it, is a sample detailed schedule that we put together utilizing the scope of work that we highlighted here today. That again would be a working document that we would finalize in the next phase. Yeah, and any other questions before I bring Bob up here to close? Okay, the last thing I'm going to do is have our owner, Bob Bennett, come up and talk a little bit about our commitment to you as we move into the next step.
Thanks a lot. really, I'm only here for one reason, and that is to meet you guys personally. Always enjoy the presentation that these guys do. They've done a fantastic job for us. As Mark said, we started the company about 16 years ago. We got really, really good clients all over Illinois and Missouri, and we're trying to expand beyond that. Our number one goal is delighted customers, and that's what we want you guys to be when we're going through the process and when we're finished with it, that you're truly satisfied and delighted with it. My definition of delighted customer is somebody that likes it so much that you're going to go talk to your neighboring school and tell them about us, or you're going to be talking to our folks here about the next project for the summer after, or maybe it's 3 or 4 summers later. But that's the kind of result that we want. So I'm really here tonight to give you my personal guarantee that we will do whatever it takes to achieve those goals. As these guys talked about, there's a lot of things that go into the process. We've put some ideas together in our proposal. By no means are they the end point. That's just the beginning. We need to collaborate with you and have a team effort to determine what the exact needs are, and then do the comprehensive planning that's going to be required for somebody like Jason to pull off the completion of a project as complicated as this could be in the short amount of time over the summer. So I wanted to thank you and look forward to answering some more questions, and hopefully get selected by your board to do your work.
Jason, how long?